In this week's gaming news, Light No Fire is already way too popular for its own good. Blizzard is killing it in a good way for the Xbox division. We're about to see gameplay for my most anticipated upcoming MMO and a whole lot more. Welcome back to the Force Feed, your weekly gaming news recap. Thank you to everyone for all the kind words of support for the return of the show last week. I was extremely nervous nobody would watch, but you guys honestly came out and it did far better than I expected. Thank you so very much. All right, enough of the mushy crap. What's going on in gaming this week? Let's find out. It has been a few years now since Light No Fire was originally announced with that very first trailer, and we've heard precious little else about the game since, despite all of the anticipation and hype, or as it turns out, because of it. Yeah, speaking with PC Gamer, Sean Murray recently revealed that they originally planned to show a whole lot more, saying, "I did have a plan and I thought we'll tease it with 90 seconds and then we'll show it again at Summer Games Fest probably, and I had a much bigger thing that I wanted to show about the game to really explain what it was, because I don't think we've necessarily have shown the vision or the ambition of the game." Oh no, here he goes again, talking about how ambitious his upcoming game is. I mean, it does sound ambitious. No Man's Sky also sounded ambitious pre-release. Sticking the landing at launch, that, Post-launch support, though, has been unparalleled. Like, gotta hand it to him. 10 straight years of free updates. Unparalleled. And the game is still going strong. So yeah, anyways, for Light No Fire, they initially thought, okay, we're gonna start with this trailer for the next game, and then we'll do a deeper dive later on. However, that decision changed when they saw all of the anticipation, or in other words, too many people watched the trailer. That's right, it's your fault.
I had nothing to do with it. Nothing!
The reality is, it was incredibly popular. We just shot up the Steam wishlist charts. There's like 20 million views on the tease, and we're number 2 on the Steam wishlist, which they're still about there last time I looked. He did further add that they really didn't want to repeat the same mistakes that they made with the pre-release coverage of No Man's Sky, which I don't blame them. All of that, and given our past, made us feel like, okay, we don't need to say anything more right now. Concluding with some of his own reflections, "I have learned the very, very hard way to not talk about anything ahead of time, and our attitude in general is to avoid saying anything to the press or outwardly unless we really, really need to." And honestly, that all sounds reasonable. I mean, I imagine if you had like several internet documentaries made about the launch of your game and the things you said pre-release compared to what came out, you might be a little hesitant to repeat that in the future. Say less, let the game do the talking. That sounds good to me. Now, speaking of the game, they did also briefly discuss this, with Sean sharing some of his thoughts on the latest build. He said, "What I'm looking at on screen is way, way beyond what any normal studio would have, and have not shown more of it to the rest of the world. We're lucky from that point of view. We can kind of just keep it to ourselves, keep working on what we're enjoying, and not have to spend our time marketing and hyping and showing the game to people." He then touched on the fact that there are a lot of ideas and system sharing between No Man's Sky and Light No Fire, directly pointing to the Voyagers update that No Man's Sky got last year. That started as something in Light No Fire. We were making ships that you could have a crew and use in multiplayer, but they were their own physics world. They can travel across oceans because we've got these huge oceans in Light No Fire. And then they thought, oh, that could work really well in No Man's Sky as well. So they built it out and released it again last year. This will likely continue to be the case post-release as well. In fact, they said that they continue to similarly support Light No Fire as they have No Man's Sky. We feel that Light No Fire is a game that will fit that way of making games, where you can think of a lot of ideas and they would make sense, and we can feed off the community. Whether we'll be lucky enough to get to work on it for 10 years after launch, I don't know, but I'd like to. I've worked on it now for 7 years, and I'm still really enjoying it. Frankly, I am very excited for Light No Fire for a few reasons. The ongoing support they've given No Man's Sky has proven that they're willing to commit to their game and keep updating it for, again, now a full decade. Also, I like the fantasy theming that they have for their next game, the different landscapes and creatures and potential for special magical spells and dungeon diving, and all of that stuff sounds really cool. And yeah, just the premise alone of this one massive open shared world that is the size of an actual planet. The potential here is absolutely huge, and it does tick a few of the boxes that I'm personally excited about as a fan of MMOs. I guess my biggest hope with this game in comparison to No Man's Sky is that they really focus on good combat feel, because the last few times I played No Man's Sky, while it's got a lot going for it that I enjoy, combat ranks near the bottom. It just doesn't feel very good. But if they can nail combat in a big, seamless, fantasy shared world with all of those other stuff going on, this could be a banger, dude. Like, honestly, things have been pretty grim under the Xbox banner lately, as I'm sure you've heard. Their underperforming games division, mass layoffs, and increased hardware pricing, just to name a few. There is one bright spot worth highlighting, though, and believe it or not, it's Blizzard Entertainment. Yes, at least on the financial front, they have been performing quite well recently. Reportedly, the company was one of Xbox's top studios over this past year. They are making Microsoft loads of money. Surely this means no one will be laid off. Right? Right? That's how this works. No one's gonna get fired at Blizzard. They're making all the money.
There's almost nothing here. There should be stacks of cash in there.
In an internal memo last week, Blizzard president said to employees that they ended the fiscal year, quote, as the top performing studio in Xbox's studio division, and this past year has marked our third highest fiscal for the top line revenue in Blizzard's history. Going on to add that in fiscal year 25 and 26, they were back to back the first years of growth since 2017, with Diablo 4 Lord of Hatred and Overwatch driving exceptional performances in particular. Now, aside from their financial performance, there's also a lot on the horizon for Blizzard when it comes to their in-the-works projects and things that we're expecting to hear about from the upcoming BlizzCon event. In the memo, they said that the weekend will reflect the bold and collaborative work of everyone reading this. It's my hope that the event can shine a light on the work underway at Blizzard, and there is quite a lot underway. Now, I'll say as a longtime World of Warcraft fan, I am extremely excited for what they have in the works. There have been some subtle and not so subtle acknowledgements of Classic Plus being revealed at BlizzCon, which, if you're unaware, Classic Plus, kind of think of it as the evolution of the original vanilla World of Warcraft, in a vein similar to what Jagex managed to do with old school RuneScape. I'm a huge fan of Classic WoW in its many iterations, the original version of course, but also the anniversary servers, the hardcore mode, and I even really liked a lot about Season of Discovery. I just think there's a ton of potential. Should they do a good job of Classic Plus, or as it's being codenamed, Camelot, it could be loads of fun and as such a massive success, and honestly, I can't wait. Now, beyond Classic WoW, we also know Blizzard has a few other things going on. They're working on an open world StarCraft third-person shooter, and I've even heard rumors that it might be something akin to Destiny, like a loot game. Brother, if that's true, holy crap. And then, of course, we've got the next expansion for Retail WoW, The Last Titan. There's evidently a new major Diablo game in production, and they've got some side projects in the works, various mobile games, and apparently some TV series as well. Now, we will be getting all of these answers very soon, with BlizzCon taking place from September 12th to the 13th. I can't wait. Personally, I would have loved to go in person, as this seems like it's going to be a jam-packed show this year, but it is literally the same week that our baby is due, so I'm going to be watching it at home or from the hospital or changing diapers, depending on when he decides to show up. I don't know. Already told the wife, by the way, I'm going to be taking overnight duty so I can get some gaming in while spending time with baby. It's going to be a fun fall, dude. Not a lot of sleep, but should be a lot of fun. I got a few updates for one of my most anticipated upcoming games, that being Guild Wars 3. This next major release from the MMO development studio ArenaNet has me very excited. During a recent earnings call, their publisher NCSoft shared a few details on the project. They said that following the game's reveal, it ranked second on Steam wishlist for a while, and as a result, they have decided to invest significant resources to prepare for launch. Yes, NCSoft, give ArenaNet all of the resources to make Guild Wars 3 as good as it can be. Playtest will be beginning sometime next year, which we already knew. They're targeting roughly sometime in the fall of 2027. They have confirmed plans to continue supporting Guild Wars 2 even after Guild Wars 3 comes out. The reason being that following the Summer Games Fest announcement, Guild Wars 2's monthly active users and revenue hit a 3-year high. So the game is clearly still going strong, and as such, they have got no plans to drop it. They have also clarified that they are working to support ArenaNet on a technical level, as they've got experience with Unreal Engine 5, but they, quote, do not interfere with game design. And yes, please don't. NCSoft, give ArenaNet all of your money. Do not touch the game design whatsoever. Arena has proven themselves capable of making great MMOs with immersive worlds, fun systems and mechanics, and some of the best in genre zone exploration and questing. Honestly, I don't think anything has beat Guild Wars 2 when it comes to going through the world, exploring, visiting points of interest, the map completion, and the way they handle quests. I think it's best in genre, quite literally. Maybe barring some item bloat and inventory management, those are absolute pain points, but I love nearly everything else about Guild Wars 2. Leave them alone, NCSoft, please. Give them money, leave them alone. Guild Wars 3 also will be launching simultaneously on PC and consoles. They are planning to start pre-sales next year, they said. So likely they're gonna open up pre-orders during the fall playtest. Maybe you pre-order to get into the playtest. Certainly possible. And also leads me to believe, though, that if they're going to be doing pre-orders in 2027, I think we might be seeing a 2028 release. That seems entirely possible. Now, beyond this NCSoft earnings call, we've also learned that Guild Wars 3 is going to have a presence at this year's Gamescom. From what I've read, it looks like they'll be showing select outlets and creators actual gameplay at the event. German streamer Matashi recently said that he was invited to see a full hour of raw gameplay.
GW3 wird hart? Yo, GW3 wird hart. Habe ich eigentlich erzählt, dass ich auf der Gamescom Guild Wars 3 angucken darf? Ich darf auf der Gamescom 1 Stunde lang Gameplay von Guild Wars 3 anschauen.
That is really good news if they're confident enough in the state of the game that they're showing it to people. Now, not sure if this is going to come with some strict NDA or not, or if we're going to be getting some hands-on impressions from the event. I'm hoping for the latter, of course. Yeah, this is without a doubt my most anticipated in-development MMO right now. It is one of the few games in the genre coming from a studio that I already know makes great MMOs. Guild Wars 2, one of my all-time favorites, along with WoW and ESO. So yeah, dude, sign me up for whatever ArenaNet has cooking. Got some hands-on impressions for the upcoming game Star Wars Zero Company, and they're looking pretty good. This is the Star Wars XCOM-like that I've been eagerly anticipating since its initial reveal, and I'm happy to see that it's getting positive reception from most everyone who has gotten an early preview of the game. Take it from Australia's greatest export.
Leveraging the genre experience of former Far Axis staff with the storytelling pedigree of Respawn's writing team is a match made in heaven. We get ourselves a spiritual successor to XCOM in a Star Wars wrapper that delivers rock-solid XCOM-style gameplay fundamentals and levels of storytelling and presentation that are a genuine first for this genre. Depth and elegance, you might say. I think this looks super impressive. I really loved it. I think it's going to be great.
Thanks, Skill Up. Appreciate the overview and happy to hear it. Yeah, man, Seems Zero Company is taking the tried and true combat formula of XCOM, adding its own flavor with the Star Wars setting, characters, archetypes, and their associated abilities, on top of delivering what actually seems to be genuinely good story and some of their own unique mechanics and twists. Everything I've seen thus far looks great. Cannot wait to try it out myself. Crimson Desert, probably one of the year's biggest surprises for me thus far, although not without its quirks and certainly some issues at release. Overall, I had an amazing time. Honestly, I love the game. One of my biggest disappointments, however, was that they didn't launch with any form of co-op or multiplayer, something that they initially planned to do. In fact, initially, the game was supposed to be a full-blown MMORPG, similar to Pearl Abyss's other big title, Black Desert Online. But those plans were reined back and turned into the single-player game that we eventually got. Although, prior to release, for a time, they were still discussing possibly having some multiplayer modes. That, however, as we know, didn't make it into the launch version of the game. But it looks like it might still be coming. In a recent earnings call, Pearl Abyss discussed plans for adding multiplayer to Crimson Desert. Given Crimson Desert's dynamic action combat and expansive open world structure, there is significant potential for expansion into multiplayer modes. However, integrating multiplayer functionality is far more complex than simply adding a new game mode. It represents a major technical initiative that requires comprehensive evaluation of server architecture, game balance, cross-platform stability, and live service operation models. Why is that necessary? Okay, whatever. No, they go on to say that they are currently conducting extensive research from like the technical and gameplay perspective, with the goal being to extend how users engage with the IP over the long term. Or in other words, people played our single-player game, they finished our single-player game, and then they stopped playing our single-player game. What if it was a multiplayer game that they could keep playing? Damn, dude, that's an idea. We're gonna get some more details about this at some point in the future, but It's in the works. They're considering it. I do think at the very least, a co-op functionality would be fantastic. Maybe even some light shared world elements. Like what if it was kind of like a Destiny game or a Division where you just saw a couple people out in the world? How about custom characters? That's given how bland Cliff Maduck is as a character, to let us make our own. That's been a critique since the game's original release. I mean, I think there's a lot of possibilities. Even something like, what about like a Dark Souls invasion style PvP system? That's something you could choose to engage with, and then it could come with its own rewards, but you would get invaded sometime. There's a lot of possibilities, and I'm sure they've got plenty of ideas, given once more that when this game started development, it was supposed to be a full-blown MMO. I think you can kind of get that sense given how massive that world is for a single player game, right? Either way, excited to see what they come up with. There is a new large-scale multiplayer FPS in production that's coming just around the corner, and it's looking pretty darn good. The game is called Wardogs, described as a tactical all-out warfare FPS where 100 players split across 3 teams fight for control over zones set in this derelict industrial mountains of Eastern Europe on a destructible battlefield where teamwork pays. So I've watched a few like early hands-on preview videos, and damn dude, the game's looking pretty impressive. I also really like that it's a large-scale game with 3 factions instead of just 2, similar to how the PvP works in Elder Scrolls Online and Guild Wars 2, or of course the first-person shooter variant, Planet Side, right? I find that 3 factions are just more interesting personally. Like when one side gets too strong, you can have the other 2 temporarily banding together to push them back. And then when one of those 2 gets too strong, the other 2 then start working together. Just the whole dynamic, I find like it can be a lot more interesting depending on how they balance it and how they manage to keep the teams literally balanced when it comes to player numbers and strength, really. So yeah, big scale combat akin to Battlefield, but 3 factions. An in-game VoIP. I'm sure that'll be as interesting as it always is. Also, from the early playtest, I have heard that the game runs exceptionally well, which is great to hear. They've got an upcoming playtest from August 21st to the 23rd. You can sign up just by going to the Steam page and clicking on this green button. Also, the game launches really soon, set to release on Steam Early Access on September the 10th. Yet another game launching in September, dear lord. Speaking of which, Warhammer 40k Dawn of War 4 has been delayed, moved from its initial September release. It's now going to be launching on December the 3rd. Now, according to the studio, they're going to be using this additional time to improve the game. Of course they are. That's what everyone does when they delay the game. Namely, though, pointing to implementing more community feedback from recent playtests and working on performance bug fixes and additional polish. They intend to release videos over the coming weeks, showcasing some of what they're working on. We can expect more Battlefield reports, gameplay, and deep dives for the game. They have also released an updated Year 1 roadmap of what to expect post-launch. And yes, by all means, delay the game a few months if it makes it better, absolutely. Probably doesn't hurt that they are moving out of this insanely packed month of September. There's like multiple new big games along with major updates for great existing titles coming out every single week next month. It is absurd. Definitely gonna have to pick and choose what to focus on, that's for sure. But yeah, Dawn of War 4 looks great. I want to play it, so I'm kind of happy that it's coming in December. It gives us all more breathing room. The Game Awards 2026, the date has been confirmed now for December the 10th. This, of course, is the annual award show where we celebrate the games industry, watch a bunch of video game commercials, and get some funny, awkward moments. Also, Jeff Keighley places the Sword of Damocles over one poor developer's head. Oh my god, Highguard. What a debacle, dude. It's definitely going to be interesting to see what they choose to show this year. I imagine almost no studio is going to want to be the closer at this point, not after the unfortunate chain of events that took place last year, unless you're like ultra confident in your product. In fact, you know what? I got an idea. Light no fire. Be the show closer. Give us some damn gameplay. We know you're holding on to it. I'm sorry too many people watched the trailer and wishlisted the game. Please God, I want to see some more. All right, now let's move on to some new releases for this past week. Agent 64 came out, and it did well in terms of user reception. The game does have a very positive Steam rating, but has a pretty small audience. It's peaked under 1,000 concurrent players. The game, it's interesting to me, like on a nostalgia level, but it does seem to not really have taken off with a wider audience. I mean, I know way more people played GoldenEye back in the day, but it looks like there just isn't tons of interest in reliving a similar experience in 2026. Still though, it's cool. I'm happy to see it's doing well, and the people who are playing it seem to enjoy it. Hell Let Loose, however, having a bit of a rough go. The current user rating is mixed at around 60%, with the biggest issues seeming to be the game's performance, bugs, and just overall, it feels unfinished, and it's not an early access release. I've even seen a lot of positive reviews that say it doesn't feel like 1.0. Many reviews do say that after some updates, the game should be in a good spot, that it has some good bones, but right now, it needs a lot of work. Also saw a few complaints about controller aim assist. The mouse and keyboard versus controller debate rages on. No More Room in Hell 2 left early access and entered 1.0 last week. This coincided with a big update, adding 4 new maps along with some other stuff to the game. While the overall lifetime rating is mixed, I will say that recent reviews are at least currently mostly positive, so it does seem that players who have come back to the game are starting it for the first time with this new update are enjoying it overall. The game definitely had some issues when I played it in its initial early access release, but I still had a bit of fun with it. There were some major bugs and performance problems, but yeah, overall I enjoyed it, and it seems like a lot of that has been ironed out. We will see how the game does in the coming weeks. Now, as for what I've been playing over this past week, well, I actually spent a bunch of time with the Halo Master Chief Collection. I had some old friends of mine visit for a few days, and we basically just enjoyed reliving our youth, playing Magic the Gathering and Halo, as well as eating food we probably shouldn't be eating all day. Honestly, it was loads of fun. Master Chief Collection, it's cool, it works. Couldn't manage to get cross-play, however, to work between the Xbox and PC, so we all just ended up playing on one of my bigger screens and doing local split screen multiplayer. We got Crazy King, rocket launcher starting weapon. It was a hoot. I forgot how fun early day multiplayer Halo could be. It was a great time. Now, there's also something else that I've been playing recently. It's an upcoming MMO, but for NDA reasons, I cannot name it. Been busy with that, but I'll talk more about that in the future. And then after this video, basically, I'm going to be jumping into the Gears of War multiplayer. It looks really fun. The open beta is now here. Heard amazing things. Lots of people saying it's like the most fun they've had with the franchise since Gears of War 3. And I'm particularly interested in that large-scale horde mode where you got multiple teams taking on massive waves of enemies coming from every direction. Looks crazy, looks hectic. They got some big over-the-top bosses. Seems like a lot of fun. Can't wait to jump in. Few games worth keeping an eye on that are on the docket for next week. The space sci-fi sandbox MMO Stars Reach is coming to Steam Early Access on August 18th. This is described as an ambitious MMO in the spirit of classic player-driven games built atop groundbreaking simulation that models real-world behavior. It is really meant to feel like a classic sandbox MMO, akin to something like Star Wars Galaxies. For one, the world can be manipulated and interacted with in a ton of different ways. Like, yes, you can dig holes, but you can also freeze over bodies of water, drain lakes, burn down forests, the list goes on and on. There are multiple roles you can fill with skill paths to master, like rangers, trailblazers, criminals, architects, and more. Tons of different weapons and playstyles to pick from. A lot of community-driven activities, or just the ability to do your own thing on your own little planet, and a full player-driven economy where you can be some master crafter that sets up trade routes across the galaxy. I am praying this is not another Ashes of Creation situation where the game launches a little too early into early access and then gets slammed with a negative reception as a result, which kind of then triggers the death spiral. As a fan of the MMO genre, we desperately need a win. I'm not sure if this is going to be that, but here is hoping. Mortal Shell 2 lands on August 20th, and from early previews, the game seems to be a step up from its original, improving in just about every way. It's described as an action RPG in this immersive, interconnected world with expansive and deliberately compact design that you'll be going through twisted landscapes with hidden structures discovered as you progress. Like the original, you take on the shells of fallen warriors, unlocking unique abilities with each. In addition to those shells, you get an open world where you'll find new story elements, powerful weapons, upgrades, curiosities, and more. There's more than 60 dungeons with bosses and formidable challenges in every one. Yeah, lots of good buzz around this, and I'm hoping it delivers. Modern Warfare 4 kicks off its pre-order playtest on the 21st. This is going to come with several maps and brand new operators, 19 weapons, and multiple modes from search and destroy to the new kill block. I'm personally going to be waiting for the open beta, not going to pre-order just to play it for a few days the week prior, but if you're interested, it's available. And then yes, as mentioned, we do have that closed beta test happening for Wardogs on the 21st. I have already signed up via the Steam page. This looks really cool. Hope it turns out good. Also, I just wanted to show this real quick. I was browsing Reddit and I saw this post. It says like classics on the go. I used to dream about this as a kid. This guy playing with I believe that's a Switch, and he's talking about having all these classics on his thing, and then I'm looking at this and it's like, wait, Diablo 3 is a classic? How old am I? Like Diablo 2 I understand, but Diablo 3? Hades is a classic? Maybe he just means classic by good games and not by games that are really, 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 really old. All right, that does it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for watching. Again, really appreciate the support. I was pretty nervous bringing back the show. I wasn't sure how a video that was about many, many different topics was frankly gonna do. But you guys checked it out, you guys stuck around, and honestly, just the overall feedback was really good. I'm gonna keep on working on the show, trying to improve it, changing up the format, keeping it fresh, interesting, fun. That's the ideal plan here. But yeah, that's it for today. Thank you as always. Once again, this has been Force, and you've just been fed. Hey, I did it. He did the line, not quite the line, adjusted line. We've improved it, 2026 edition.